Today's guest is a guy who made it his mission to turn funnels from confusing spaghetti into precision instruments of profit.
Nice, I like it.
Steve, aka Capitalist Pig, helps entrepreneurs automate sales online, scale offers, build lead machines, not just in theory, but with real measurable numbers. Founder of Capitalist Pig. Here's some interesting stuff about him. He's got the daily lead flow flywheel. He created that, a framework for 7 and 8 figure business owners to get steady, predictable leads. Published nearly 700 episodes.
Whew, a lot.
That's amazing. Built a huge following among 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. Co-authored a book with Russell called Dramatic Demonstrations. But you didn't start off with smooth content or viral content. There were dozens of product failures before you cracked the code. You got yourself a side hustle. Oh, wait, no, sorry. You've got a side of yourself that loves the theatrical, the swag, the shirts, the branding of Capitalist Pig. Also, you treat marketing like a systems game, metrics, lead flow, flywheels. You get nerdy in a way that actually pays, which
I
is
love
awesome.
that. I love that.
And you just married Marley Jax.
She said yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about a power couple. Holy crap.
Whew. Yeah, we've been having so much fun.
So we were just talking about psychedelics, but before that, so I want to, the promised land, the idea of the promised land, and what I want to do with this is where you take your clients to, like it's a journey.
Yeah.
And that ultimate destination, if they stick with you, if they show up, if they do the work, if they get through their fear, all of that, and you're the coach you're meant to be, you take them to the promised land.
Yeah.
And each coaching program has their own promised land. So to get to the promised land, to me, it takes 3 things. 1 is to magnetize people to you, getting clients. 2 is to set up methodology that works. And 3 is to be the mentor they'll follow. So when you think about those, which one really speaks to you? Or probably all 3, but which one like catches your heart the most?
Yeah, it's funny, when I first started out, I felt what most people feel, which is imposter syndrome. Like how can I go out and do what I want to if I haven't had the rags to riches story yet or anything like that?
Yeah.
And so I made it my theme in all those 700 episodes to instead become almost like a reporter, where it's like, this is what I'm doing, and you're documenting the journey of the rise rather than saying I'm there and that's why you should follow me.
Yeah.
And so I was very public about my failures and the successes that came. And so it was very vulnerable and it was very uncomfortable. Certainly
What got you to that? If I could ask, because
Yeah.
from your stories when you first got on, you were like this young guy, full of ego. Rah! Like
Yeah.
I guess you were almost angry on stage.
Did you know me back then?
No, but you told stories, and so we're actually filming in Steve's beautiful studio today. And on the other side, there's a picture of you. Like, yeah, just like that.
Just screaming, yeah. It's funny. There was a time when I first started out. I got into entrepreneurship kind of not on accident, but it was necessity.
Yeah.
I was in college, and the jobs there were $3.50 an hour. Like there's so many students, they don't need to pay a lot. I was like, I can't work 4 of these jobs and make it and still be in school. And so I called my dad and I asked him for a loan. I said, could you float me some cash? I was newly married, like a couple weeks into my ex-wife, and I could not feed us. And we were really struggling and had no idea how we were going to make it. And so I called my dad and I said, I got student loans coming on the way. Could you float me some money? Which is super uncharacteristic. Like, I worked a lot of labor jobs. My dad grew up on a farm. My first job was an injection mold plastic factory. I stood on heat lines and got the parts off and all that. I had
Really?
huge heat calluses for my hands. I was a sprinkler tech. I was a tire buster. Like, I worked a lot of labor jobs.
Yeah.
So when I got to school, like, I knew how to work hard. And to ask for money, we weren't freaky rich, but we were middle class.
Mm-hmm.
We never asked for money. If you wanted to go to the movies, you mowed a lawn, right? And so to go ask for money was this weird thing. And I was like, Dad, could you float me some money? And he paused. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And he always told me, like, the first kid sets the tone, so I'm going to expect a lot of you. I'm like, all right. He said that a lot as a kid growing up. And I said, could you float me some cash? And he goes, this story's become like internet famous now. And I love my dad. He always gets a little embarrassed whenever I say this, but I'm so glad he did this. Could you float me $3,000? I got student loans coming, but not for 6 weeks. I don't know how we're going to make it even just another 3 weeks. And he goes, son, no. If I give you this money now, you will not exhaust the resources you didn't know you had. Click. And I was like, okay. And I had respect for it. I didn't feel like he was just cutting me off, but I had respect for it. I understood what he was saying. And so I just rolled up my sleeves and I started trying to do anything entrepreneurially that I could because I had to sell to eat. And I went through 34 product failures over the next 5 years before one worked. And I think the student loan money showed up a little early, and that's because nothing was working. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just taking shots. You know, I was like, I'm gonna go make products and I'm gonna go put them out there. And my first attempt was in real estate, and I was learning how to do real estate with a double escrow. And I put up,
Really?
yeah, I put those bandit signs up all over the street, and I
Yeah.
bought like inheritance lists. And we were doing yellow letters and stuff like that. Like, hey, we'll buy your house. You know, I got 300 phone calls that first month, and so I was learning how to
Did you
put.
really?
Yeah, I was learning how to put together. And this is the middle of school, and I was putting together the buyers and the sellers. Learned how to evaluate properties, learned how to write contracts, and went out and I remember that first like 2 months, I got 5 properties under contract. They were residential and 2 commercial. And so as long as I could flip them, we'd make like a spread of like 10 grand. I didn't know how to sell. So I lost all of them. And then I went to the next thing, and then the next thing, and ended up joining the Army. One, because I was wanted to, but 2, we had to eat, like, you know, and I joined the military and found myself in the middle of basic training. I was like literally pitching dudes while I was doing push-ups next to them, like getting in trouble. Everyone's sneaking in like drugs and porn and women, and I was sneaking in finance books and getting in trouble for it. Well, Larsen, what are you doing? You got to do more push. You know, I was getting punished.
More
because-
drugs and porn and women, Larsen.
Yeah, I was like marking to death, you know, these books up. It's a hurry up and wait game there, you know. So when I got back out and I went back to school, I was like, I think I'm an entrepreneur. I've always wondered what I should be doing with my life. Like I could never answer that question growing up. And so I started going into business and marketing in school, which is different. I initially went to be a programmer.
Yeah.
And I understood it. I was bored to death though. I just, sitting there looking at code all day. I was so bored. And so I'm going to go learn how to like sell. And so then I heard Kiyosaki say, he's like, you're never going to be an entrepreneur if you don't know how to sell. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to sell. I thought being an entrepreneur was sales. I thought it was the same thing. And so I said,
being an entrepreneur is sales. It is the same thing.
But like, I didn't know that. I thought just making a product, you were done.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think it's just going to sell itself.
Yeah. And that's part of I know one of the reasons those first 34 failures happened is I kept making good stuff. I don't know why it never hit me like, you should learn how to sell. So I went and deliberately signed up for the boot camp of sales door to door. And I started doing door to door sales, and I sucked the first year. The second year I got good at it. And then I was like, got addicted to it. So between classes, I took telemarketing jobs, and I'd be like ringing B2B for this new tech called texting. You know, it was like way back in the day. And yeah, I think when I hear you say like the promised land piece, I think sometimes the challenge with it can be that it feels like a moving target. So what I learned how to do early was I call it a problems whiteboard. And I just would list all the problems that I could see in the business. And I wasn't trying to solve them. I was trying to just identify them. And I would start to rank them. And I would be like, if I solve this problem, that's a money problem. That's a broke person problem. I could solve it, but it makes no money. This problem right here could make money, but in the long term, so I shouldn't do it today. And it started helping me prioritize the skills that I knew I needed next to bring cash faster. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, my marketing degree is a dime a dozen. Like, I'm studying extra books that none of these other kids, you know, I was hungry. Literally, I would read books while walking between classes. I absolutely ran into people. And like, but I just, a thirst, like I can't describe. And one day I looked in the mirror and I realized that my marketing degree was a dime a dozen. That I was not going to be able to do anything with it. And nothing that I wanted to do. Is corporate analyst is basically what it was going to turn into. And so I looked at myself in the mirror and I just heard of this dude and this funnel stuff, you know, Russell Brunson and all this. And I was like, I'm going to be the best funnel builder in the world. And I assessed all of my time, how I was spending it, turned off Netflix, and just from midnight to 2 a.m. every day for about 3 years, I studied funnels.
Really?
That's the only time I could figure it out. I was in the Army, I had kids, I was family, college. I mean, it was so busy. I just have no empathy for someone who has like I have no time. I'm like, yeah, you do.
You were in the Army and college?
Well, I I was back between basic and I was in the reserves,
Yeah.
but being sent out to trainings and helping other people deploy.
Yeah.
And
And you had kids and a family.
yeah, it was a lot, and so, but I grew so fast because of that environment. I wanted to go to this event called Funnel Hacking Live, but I was broke. We were getting from student loans, I think, $5,500 every 3 months. I mean, there was no sesame seeds on the bun. The donut was not glazed. We were so freaking poor. We were like, it was bad.
How'd you get through that first 3 months when you called your dad? You said the check came early or
I
something?
think it just showed up early.
But somehow you paid for itself, right?
Somehow.
One of the things, like, when you shared that, I went like, whoa, but my reaction was not, wow, I can't believe he said that. My reaction was how badass that your dad said that to you.
Isn't it cool?
Because he was right. Because we were talking about, you and I were chatting earlier about how people that will be on payment plans, they'll reach a rough spot and then they want to quit.
I can't afford this right now. I'm like, that's the gift.
Yes, that is the moment destiny is formed. And it's, your dad said it so perfect. It's not until you get put in a situation where you have to that you will.
Yeah.
And too many people are afraid to put themselves in that situation. And
Well,
it's like the promise. And part of the reason we have this name, the Promised Land, the tribe of Israel, when they left, they were literally in slavery. They get set free and all these miracles happen and the Red Sea parts and all these, right? And then they're free. And then they're like, we don't have anything to eat. We should go back and be slaves.
Yeah.
And they're like, we just have bread. We don't have meat. We should go back and be slaves. And then they get there and they could have been there in a 10 days journey, but they didn't have the courage to trust that God had their back.
40 years.
And that's the journey of our coaching clients.
Yes.
It's going to be a 10-day journey,
Yeah.
or it's going to be a 40-year journey if they ever get there. Because actually, I believe that an entire generation had to die off.
Yeah.
The ones of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
And for our clients,
Moses himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get to see it but not go in it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of our coaching clients. They get to see it but not go in it. So your dad gave you such a freaking gift.
I'm very grateful for it. What it taught me, and this is going to sound slightly masochist, I'm hard to kill.
That's great.
Is what I learned. And so I learned that environments that's where I learned it. Environments grow us faster than our willpower ever will. And the problem is that people have too many, I have a plan B. Don't even have one. It's this or death.
Yes.
And if you go that far into it and your schedule and your time management starts to actually reflect that,
Yes.
it is nuts how the universe and God begins to conspire for your sake, and you will feel a wind at your back and a pull through the chest, and stuff starts to fall in your path.
Yes.
And when I started learning that, and I told myself I'm going to be the best funnel builder in the world, I have no idea if I am, but the commitment, and I was dead serious. There was not a smirk on I was absolutely serious about that. The next environment, and I recognized it this time, it was that I wanted to go to this event, Funnel Hacking Live, but I was broke. No money for even a taxi when I got there. So I was like, instead of I can't afford it, it's what Kiyosaki says, how can I afford it? And I started trading funnels for plane tickets for the event, and funnels for hotel nights, and funnels for the event ticket itself. And I bartered my way there, literally rented a bike because I didn't have money for a taxi, with my luggage over my shoulder, rode through the city, hid the bike in a bush because I needed it after I checked in. And I was such a funnel nerd by that point. Like, the constraint of not having money is what made me really freaking good at building funnels. When I walked into the event, they said, we know who you are. Can you work here? And so they said, what's your name? I said, Steve Larsen. The dude shot up. He's like, he actually said, he goes, you're that guy pulling off all the Star Wars Ninja crap in our software. I was like, what are you talking about? I was taking on clients in the middle of college so that I could learn.
Yeah.
I said, don't pay me, but if it works, let's talk about me getting paid. And that's how I got clients.
So cool.
So when I came in to that event, I ended up getting 5 job offers from 5 different departments at this new little company called ClickFunnels. And I think I was employee 12. And I just was like, I just want to be in the environment. So when they gave me a job offer, I thought, and what they said was, we want you to come be support. I said, it's kind of weird you guys want me to meet with Russell personally for that. So I left my I left all of my exams the final semester of college in the middle of exams, got in a car and drove over to Boise, Idaho, and met with Russell for an hour and a half face to face. And he and I clicked so much, and I was such a nerd in his stuff. After an hour and a half, his assistant had to pull us apart, basically. He was like, he's got other stuff to do. But I got back in my car, started driving. 20 minutes after driving back, they called and they're like, can you be Russell Brunson's personal funnel builder? And I was like, what? I was graduating in 3 days. And I was like, it's a terrible negotiation strategy, but I was like, I would do that for free. Are you kidding me? And I said, yelled that back. I was like, yeah, man, let's go, baby. And I just lost my voice on the car ride home, just like so psyched out of my mind. But what was it?
That's so cool.
The hyper, to go super full circle on that, the yelling persona that you see. When I graduated, I became an officer in the Army, and I misunderstood. I thought aggression meant that's how you get goals. And so that's the only persona I knew to show up with. And showing up literally out of a pain body. So that's really the next journey that I started. He and I built funnels for 2 years, many times 24/7. We would literally build through the night as we were building up ClickFunnels. And then, we just burned. We just went so hard. People were like, oh, I would have given anything to be that funnel building assistant. Reality is, I don't think most people could handle it. It was so extreme.
Yeah.
And as I started building all these programs, and One Funnel Away, and the first 2 Comic Up coaching program, and I wrote the Funnel Hacker cookbook, and all this stuff over there, I was like, my personal growth requires me to leave. It was a very uncomfortable truth I kept trying to not look at, and that was the next environment inviting. And I was like, whew, I don't think I'm tall enough to ride that ride, be my own. And then I decided that that's when I started the podcast. I was like, I'm going to document the psycho of the leave. And that's what really grew the following. So the side story in that is that risk published becomes an asset. So if someone's
published becomes an asset.
When you go after your promised land and you start moving towards it, it's scary, but it's no longer a risk if you start to publish it, because now you're followable. That's how I grew my following.
That helps me. So people have been telling me for a while, I had to document my journey to fill up an event. So
Yeah.
I want to get 500 people there.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it. But hearing what you saying that, so we have an event almost literally a month from now.
Yeah.
I could start publishing every day. Here's how many numbers we have. Here's where we're going.
Yeah. And people are like, what do I publish? What's my marketing material? And it's like, funny enough, there's so many narratives you can follow in marketing, but one of them is your journey of doing the thing, but it only works if you're clear on the promised land, you call the shot, and you're public about it. So I was like, I'm going to leave my job, and I'm going to do it publicly. I'm not burning any bridges, but follow me as I make my first million. And literally 13 months to the day after I left is when I made my first million. And then after that, it was in 7 months. And then after that, in a month. And it just kept stacking.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a little bit.
Yeah.
That first funnel hacking live you went to, because I've always heard stories about these kids. It's always a kid. This kid, no money, can't pay, whatever, but shows up. What inspired you to do that? What inspired you to say, I'm going and I'm going to barter my way there, or I'm going to actually go there, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for lunch, but I'm going? What?
I actually didn't eat during that event. I didn't have any money. Yeah.
Yeah. What had you say yes to that? What clicked in you? I want to get the feel for who that person was and what actually catalyzed that person, as opposed to the thousands of others who would have just quit.
At the time of my life, I didn't know that then. I know now. I was fiercely lonely. I did not know another person on the planet that was trying to do this funnel thing, except for Russell Brunson himself. And I was devouring his books while in military training, holding my M16, laying in the dirt for 5 days. I would keep his book in a plastic baggie in my uniform in my pocket. And when no one was looking, I'd pull it back out and I'd keep studying with a pencil. Someone else would come and oh crap, and pull my gun back up to sit there. I just was really lonely. And I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up for my entire childhood. and I knew I was good at solving problems.
Yeah.
But I was like, how do you equate that? And it was a professor that I had who he kind of became my first one-on-one mentor. This dude was a legit marketer. He helped to launch Star Wars Episode 1. He was the previous CMO of Denny's and a Pizza Hut. This guy was awesome, and I spent time with him. And I just told him, I was like, I do not know what I want to be. He's like, I think you're an entrepreneur or like a marketer. And I literally said to him, that's what you do when you have no skills. Like, I keep thinking, and he just, stupid foot in the mouth thing to say. And he was like, huh. And I was like, well, you know, like, because at the time I was going to go into finance or supply chain or programmer. I was very left brain.
Yeah.
And
That's what you do when you have
that's
no
what I told him.
skills.
And
Was
he's
he a
like,
marketing professor?
yeah. And I said it to him, and we didn't have a relationship. He's just like, dude, you're an idiot. And I was like, enlighten me then. He goes, you solve problems every day. Like,
Oh, that's so funny.
he's like, if you like waking up every day and solving a new problem, you should be a marketer. You got to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, it's what really gave me permission to go do it intentionally, because I was always building these little side things. One of the fastest ways I've found to hack gaining the promised land as fast as possible is I learned this in college also. I had this other professor, he was super freaking smart. This guy, you know, when the two towers burnt down, he's the one that invented a new kind of concrete for the new Freedom Tower, and that's what they used.
Really?
And he came in and he taught us, and he raised his hand, and he goes, can you guys raise your hands if you're like, this is an entrepreneurship class. How many guys are like doing a business? Me and another dude raised our hand out of the entire class. And he goes, you want to know the biggest pattern of the people who fail? What's the pattern of the worst student on the planet? And we all just sat there. And he goes, the pattern of the worst student on the planet is the student that thinks that I am at all responsible for your education. Because if you're not doing a business, you're in business classes in school, idiots. I mean, he was really forceful, but I was like, this dude's right. If I want to be in business, I got to be taking shots.
Wow.
And so I walked into my very first internet marketing class, and I'd already, because of that, been so into studying internet marketing on my own between classes, not just studying it, I was doing it, trying to make money. And this professor stood up on day one and he's like, guys, I got a doozy here for you. Welcome to Internet Marketing 101. Who can define SEO? And I was like, kill me. I was so bored. So I raised my hand and I was like, I am learning about myself that I can make my own path. So I raised my hand and I said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to come back to this class, no offense. But I've just been doing this already. And to my complete shock, the professor agreed. And he said, leave. But just hold your own class every day and try to make as much money as you can on the internet. So I grabbed another kid out of the class, and for every day for 3 hours, we, with affiliate marketing, went out and tried. That's how I made my first dollar on the internet. And because of that, Paul Mitchell came to the school and said, we don't know how to fix our websites. And all the professors were like, we don't really know how to do it, but those two kids over there seemed like they know what they're doing. So we got Paul Mitchell as one of our clients in the middle of school, and I started running internet traffic for...
Like Paul Mitchell, the hair place.
Yeah, I started
Really?
running for 6 locations in California and 2 in Idaho in the middle of classes, driving traffic and meeting with all these CEOs and stuff. And that's part of my point, though, is
Wow.
we are often, when we're going towards the promised land in our own mind, trying to wait for someone to give us the curriculum. It doesn't work that way. You make your own. You have to sit down and say, that's what I want. And I think the way to get there is 1, 2, and 3, and just do it. And there's going to be doors that open. I wouldn't have been ready for Paul Mitchell if someone said, here's the curriculum, go study affiliate marketing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so people always get surprised at how fast doors start to open when they actually start moving, but they get stuck in paralysis because they're like, I don't see point A to point B. And I'm like, you never see point A to point B. It's like, welcome to the game. You know, business is a faith-based game. You see the next 3 steps, you see the peak, and everything in the middle is dark. And so as you move, a new 3rd step starts to appear, you know, and then a new 3rd step.
Yes.
And where people trip themselves up is they're like, they start learning for step 47.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. It's like, are you on step 46? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then put the books down. Like, stop learning all this stuff. Only study for the single next problem that you're trying to solve, which means you have to be able to name it. And that's hyper growth, and then all these doors unlock. I feel like I'm rambling, but
No,
I love this topic.
fantastic. So let me go back again. You were really driven in college.
Very.
So, for people listening, I didn't really start on my journey until 32. Like college. Looking back now, I know I was just so wounded,
Sure.
just so hurting. And I was partying my ass off and stuff.
Sure.
What had you be so determined though? And I will say this though, guys, look at how early he got on the path and look at the success he's having now, right? Which is huge. So what got you to be that person then?
I've reflected on that a lot now that I have 3 daughters of my own. A lot of it was my parents. All my siblings do different things. We're literally around the world. I mean, a sibling in Peru, one just came back from living in Fiji, oh my gosh. Anyway, I got another brother in Germany, another one in England, got another brother. We're literally around the world. And part of the thing that they would always instill in us is, hey, us as parents, our job is not to coddle you.
Mm-hmm.
Our purpose is to make you a self-sufficient adult. And so I've talked to my dad about this since all that. That was like, holy crap, like 15 years ago. He would create these little scenarios for me to grow against. One day he walked into I love this example, but I think it tees it up well. He walked into the living room where we were all just sitting around. I was probably 13, 14. And he goes, Steven, I want you to be the yard manager. And I was like, no. And he goes, here's the deal. I can pay you, or you're going to do it for free as a chore. I was like, all right. I was like, what does it mean to be a yard manager? He's like, you're going to manage all the aspects of the yard to make sure it's green and clean. And I was like, what does that mean? He goes, yeah, what does that mean? And he would always just turn it, get me thinking.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I held interviews with all my siblings, and I learned how to write a contract. And I literally hired each of my siblings for different roles in the yard. So I said, Dad, what's the budget? He's like, yeah, why don't you go ahead and write for me a proposal on what you think it will cost to make the yard green and clean every week? How do you write a proposal? I don't know, but this thing called Google's out. And so he would go and I'd Google it and wrote a contract and figured out how to do an interview and figured out how to, so I sat down and I would contract each of my siblings. You're going to be the one that mows the front yard. You're going to be the one that weeds the backyard. You're going to be the one that does the trimming on the outside. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. There's 17 years between me and the youngest. So a lot of them weren't even around yet. And they're the little kids. But I was the one who's held responsible. So he's like, hey, Dad, we need some more money for the lawnmower. Crazy. Could you send me like a invoice proposal? I was like, sure. What's an invoice? He goes, don't know, but Google's a thing.
Wow.
And so I had to go learn how to invoice. And I handed him the invoice and he goes, sounds good. I'll expect to pay us on net 30 terms. What is net 30 terms? And the whole freaking summer, man. Like I had racked up this big bill from him, but I never got the money. So all my friends are going to like movies and stuff like that. And I'm having to do other side jobs because I can't get paid for my dad because he wants to pay on net 30 terms because I invoiced too late. We need fertilizer. Awesome. Why don't you send me like we ran it like a business. But he did that stuff to me all the time. I walked in the house one day and there was a big stack of drywall. I was 17 by this time, maybe 16. I need you to insulate drywall, mud, spackle, and paint the garage. And that material sat there for probably 5 months. But he didn't care. That wasn't the point. And I know people would ask him, like, why don't you just help him do that? He's like, I'm raising kids, not getting a garage done.
Good.
One day he walked in, he's like, I need you to dig a new sprinkler line because that area of the lawn isn't. And I literally hand dug a sprinkler line and manually installed a sprinkler line. It's like, so it's this skill set of being able to know that there's a problem, but problems don't mean no. And I think that's the problem. That's the real issue that people have. Problems aren't the problem. The problem is when you make the problem a problem. The problem is an invitation to learn, grow, and move forward. And all you need to do is spot check the relationship with problems. And so when a problem arises, it's, yeah, how could we solve that rather than I'm disqualified? And that's why so many people never go to they don't do anything with the promised land. They're like, I'm not going to go do my thing because I have a question. I have an issue. It's like, idiot. Obstacle is the way.
So, man, I've been learning that lately. So, you've done a lot of personal growth now. What kicked you into it? Was there a moment in time? Was there an event, a conversation? What had you start to do? And by personal growth, there's a lot of people who relate to personal growth as, oh, learning how to build a funnel. Sure, that's personal growth.
Sure.
I'm referring to dredging up and discovering what our subconscious programming is and then dealing with it, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I actually would make fun of personal development and mindset next to Russell to tell you my backstory on it, because it's so funny, man. I'd sit literally back, I mean, my shoulder would touch his. And I'd hear him coaching his inner circle members all the time. And I remember all these people were talking about mindset, and I was just rolling my eyes, like, oh, freaking mindset. Are you kidding me? And I Russell turned his camera off and muted. And I turned around and I go, don't you just wish you could just tell people the formula? Like, it's a 1+1 formula. That's it. Mindset, just freaking do it. And he was like, so you think mindset is not important? And I was like, yeah, who cares? Just do the thing. And he just laughed so hard. So it wasn't something I was more like a buck up and shut up and do it kind of a thing.
Well, it's kind of like teenagers, right? They're right and they know everything.
Yeah.
I've looked at teenagers many times and I've thought, if we could actually release them right now into a position where they have to do like entrepreneurial stuff while they're super right and super full of themselves and think they know everything, they would actually do pretty well.
Yeah.
Until they had some failures, then it would go off the rails. But
yeah.
like in a way that they don't know all the stuff that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And so in a way it would be easier.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. It runs out. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it did for me. Absolutely. It probably the largest catalyst was when I was going through my divorce 6-7 years ago. And it was respectful, but I was growing very rapidly, just hyper growth.
Yeah.
And I knew that, just meaning as a person, because I was like saying yes to scary stuff because I know I won't die. Quick side thing on that. One of the things my dad was really big on, my parents were really big on, is that in the Bible, it's important to remember that Lucifer also volunteered to come down.
No, I didn't know that. I thought he was cast out.
Well, God comes forward and says, I need a savior. Jehovah and Lucifer volunteered, right? They both did. Lucifer's job, his plan was to come in and say, I'm going to make everyone come back, which is to destroy free agency and frankly would dethrone God. God saw it and said, you're gone, right? But Jehovah comes forward and says, we'll give them a choice. We know they'll mess up, and I understand that means what I'm going to have to be is a savior. And it's like, so they were very big on the fact that the order of the volunteering matters. So when someone walks in the room and says, I need a volunteer, before you even know what it is, you should have your hand in the air.
Yes.
And say, here am I, send me. I hated that as a teenager because my dad would come home on Sundays a lot and be like, hey, so-and-so needs some help over here. Let's go. And I'd be like, oh, I just want to watch TV. I just want to on teenager vibe, But what it taught me, and this is true in the Army, they come and they would say, I need a volunteer, just put my hand up. And sure, you clean some latrines. But eventually you start doing the cool jobs. And eventually they learn that about you. So when you're presented with an opportunity in your life that feels like it's taller than you, you raise your hand, here am I, and just do it. And you will figure, of course you don't know the way, otherwise you'd already be there. Right? Of course you don't qualify. You're going to get qualified on the path. You don't qualify and then walk, you're qualified on the walk, They were really big on that. Like coming back to that, like what got me on that personal growth thing, when I was going through the divorce, that's when I started realizing that my fuel source was wrong. I was super motivated by pain. I only know how to show up by aggression.
Mm-hmm.
I only know how to show up by acting like the environment was a challenger.
Yeah.
And so because it was a challenger, it's like, well, let's go. How bad can I be, baby? Like, let's go. You know, fire with fire. And it was in the middle of the divorce when I started realizing that I had accidentally, it's totally an accident, but I totally was doing it. 100% my fault, which was that pain was my only fuel source. I built my relationships out of pain. I showed up out of pain. I built the business by pain. And I didn't know I was doing that. And it was anger and pain and fear are very energetically costly.
Yes.
They cost more energetically than peace and hope and joy and love. And so the literal longevity of what I was on was impossible. And that's when I started realizing that I had kind of an addiction to pain bodies, and it's the only way I could show up. And that's when I started getting into psychedelic therapy, and I literally went with the intention of realizing that I was addicted to pain as a fuel source.
Really?
And I didn't know what my purpose was.
But you knew that you knew the addiction.
Right before going in and starting to do that stuff, yeah.
Wow.
I was working with a therapist who pointed it out.
I think so many people get into personal growth because, like me, they reach a point where the negative subconscious stuff really starts to make life break down, and like I have to do something.
That's
and
what was
if they
happening.
Get lucky, they get into personal growth. It'd be really nice if we could get people into it before that. But I think part of the challenge is, and the reason like teenagers and stuff, it's the rare ones who will listen, is they think they're okay.
Yeah.
Or that, you know, fish doesn't know what's in water. The pain they're in is so the way life is that they don't know there's a different life outside of that, and they haven't had enough experience to see that. Like that's one of the things I think about a lot is how do we kick people into this before they have that breakdown, or is that breakdown just necessary and it's part of the journey?
I think it's part of the self-discovery of life.
Yeah. So talk about self-discovery. I want to take a left turn in this conversation.
Yeah.
You were sharing with me earlier. You had a vision for where you guys are going.
Yeah.
And I know you can't share all of it because you got some secrets, but what can you share with us? What can you tell us?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and then I do want to ask you some questions about coaches after that.
Sure. Yeah. I was thinking, you know, when I went through those first 34 failures, I was so excited when the 35th finally worked that, and it made millions. And I was like, whoa, like that's great, it worked, you know? And I was like, I figured out how to make and sell a product. And I kind of got addicted to building products. And I went completely the other way. I had 55 products live at the same time, which is terrible. Like, unless you're Walmart and you're trying to have, like, you start getting this, when you have that many products live, people start, what do you do? You have no market message anymore. It dilutes you. People don't know what to show up for you to help them with. So then I started doing the opposite, and I was like, what's the top 2 or 3? And in route of deleting like crazy, that's when the next piece of self-discovery came up, which is like, what do I want to be known for in the next 10 years? Let's fast forward in 10 years. I've never been able to, you know, back then I was like, I couldn't answer that question. What do I want to be known for? You know, what is it where am I going to plant the flag? Yeah, and with ClickFunnels, I mean, I was there at the hockey stick, you know, and I was like, I want that. What am I going to go grow and scale to $1 billion, you know, just like that? Like, what am I going to go? And that's when I started asking God, right? Which I think is good. Everyone should make God your business partner, right? Which really influences how you live your life. Because I feel God's the richest. If God sees I'm not doing my part, he'll be like, you're being a bad business partner. Of course, I'm not going to send more resources. You know, it's like, and that really dictates my day to day. And so, but I also learned something about prayer that was really important, which is that I believe half of our reasoning for being on this earth is to learn how to make decisions, right? So if I'm constantly only asking God what to do, I'm not actually practicing having agency. At some point, I need to come up with a plan on my own and then bring it to God and say, here's my plan and I did the work. What do you think about it? It was only at that period where I started asking, well, what would I do? Because I kept just saying, what should I do? But that's literally outsourcing my agency. So instead I was like, what What would I do? And then as I made the plan and then presented it, that's when things started moving like crazy again. But until that moment, from like 2020, the beginning of 2020 to 2023, I'll say like professionally, I definitely felt lost. I was like, I did not have an anchor, or I didn't know where I was going. I was doing stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of value, but I just didn't know what the end game was or anything. And part of it was because I don't think I was able to be, I wasn't ready for it. I couldn't handle what we're going after now anyway, personally. Um, uh, so anyway, yeah, I love psychedelic therapy because I feel like it saved my life, changed my life, reassessed the relationship with God in it. I got to understand spirituality outside the context of religion, which it really was a good training wheels for. Ayahuasca specifically was good, amazing for that.
That's awesome. You mentioned, by the way, that story about Jesus, and is that like LDS?
I
I've
think
never
it's
heard that
in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, all right. So, psychedelic therapy.
Should I go into it?
Yeah.
I don't do it that frequently, but I do it when I feel like I need guidance and help and to really ponder for a long time. It's like a shortcut into the subconscious, you know?
Mhm.
So I went, and I won't share all of it, but I went, and it's always with a facilitator and a coach I do it with. I'm very intentional with it, not just partying with it or whatever, you know? So I went and I took it, and I'm with this coach, and this gentleman was facilitating it, and as soon as I dropped into it, I always went to work on my own crap. Like, where am I messed up? And instead I was taught for 8 hours on finally where I can now get to. Like, now you're in a spot where you could still have to grow your face off, but man, now you can actually go to this, here's what it is. And it was AI. I was like, what? I was like blown away. I was like, no, I was in huge disbelief, pushing back on it. Like, no, it's not AI. Like, it's AI. Shut up, guy. Like, that's what it is. Like, no. And in 2020, I was coming off a stage speaking at some huge, I can't remember what event it was. I called my dad. And he spearheads the AI division at Gartner now, which is like a huge review company. It's the review company of the biggest tech companies. And he's been running the AI division there for a while now. And I was like, Dad, these huge companies make marketing decisions differently than we do. They're analyzing billions of lines of data, customer data, with data scientists, and they go, with this degree of probability, we should be selling this product. They're not talking to subconscious like you and I, you know, they're not coming up with story that breaks false beliefs and building offers. They're not direct response marketers. They don't know this stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, how cool would it be if we could take the power of tower data and shove it into the hand of the small company, level the playing field? And he's like, I'll be back. I was like, okay. So we ended up creating, if it wasn't the first, it was like top 1, 2, or 3. It was the first predictive AI on the planet for small companies that could take sales data of past customers. Like, imagine if we could take anyone you've ever sold, and we feed it into a predictive AI, and it will, with a certain degree of confidence, tell you the next few moves you need to make revenue the fastest today. It will tell you that. And so we started doing that in 2020, and we would take people's funnel data, and it was so specific. It was like, increase your ad spend by 14% on Tuesdays, but drop it 13% on Wednesdays. And then 7 days before a full moon, throttle the ad spend. And whenever there's a market report, the quarterly stock market report, we want you to 3x your ad spend. But it was that specific.
Really?
And it worked so well, it started killing companies because it sold too much. And there were so many data issues. No one has clean data, you know, unless they're like $1 billion company and they have like a full-time person on it. It was so intense, we shut it down. Called it Click AI. And then it was 4 months ago in that journey, it was like, it's time to dust it off.
Really?
And so that's what I was doing last weekend. We were over there and we redesigned it, and
Wow.
pretty freaking cool. Yeah.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah. But it's just too early back then. ChatGPT wasn't out. No one even knew what generative AI was back then. We're talking predictive, which is like,
Nobody knew what AI was back then.
yeah, everyone thought it was iRobot, you know, or Terminator, you know. And some people still think it is. It's like, it's not the boogeyman.
So you're gonna help small, medium, any size business
use AI analytics to see patterns in their company the naked eye is impossible to see, so they can grow faster.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. All right, let me do some rapid fire for you today. You now. All right, so one, talk about coaches. I think we have a lot of coaches, right? That's our main niche. There's brand new. There's probably making 100, 200,000 full time. Look at the scale. There's where we are like 1 to 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
And want to get to 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones who are already, 5, 10 million. For each 4, what did they need to do to get to the next, to jump up?
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Oh, we call it the rule of 1 and 3.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah. So the rule of 1 and 3 is a way of assessing business structure. Stereotypically, and I was just reading a book a couple days ago about this guy's talking about the rule of 1 and 3 without knowing. Basically, the business structure, you take the same offer and you put it into a business structure to go launch it, you're probably going to get to $10,000 to $30,000 range with that current business structure. But to get to 100,000, right? So it's 3 and 10 and 3 and 10 and 3 and 10. To get to the next business, the next revenue, it's actually a full rework of the workflows of the company itself. You have to completely rip out the business structure and elevate it. Then you're at 100,000. And then what got you to 100,000 business structure? I'm not talking marketing. That's maybe part of it. But to get to 300 grand a month, you have to have a new business structure. Completely wipe it and completely reanalyze it. So what I see that stops people that are stuck in different rungs. Like when I was at like 300 grand a month, I knew what it would take for us to go to $1 million a month. I was like, I got to rip out the business structure and rebuild it. And I just like, I don't want to. I know what it takes to do. I don't want to do it. My heart is not in this offer at that level. And so if you take the same offer, and I see like a new coach, they'll go out and their earning power solo with obvious business structure is usually 30 grand a month, right? Then they start learning a little bit of better marketing and leads, and then they're at 100 grand a month, But when you start getting to like the 300 and even $1 million range, you really have to elevate from the mindset of an entrepreneur into a business owner. And people think they're the same thing. Wildly different. Completely. Entrepreneur is the person who makes the offer and figures out the market match and figure out people want it and the fulfillment. But a business owner doesn't work in the business at all, and they own systems. They own. If there's no documented lead system, it means that the business owner is the system. If there's no documented sales system, it means that someone else is the system. So you never get to pass the hit by a bus test. And when you can't, if nothing's documented, scale's impossible. So that's the answer. Is usually it's a reassessing of 4 functions, which is lead, sales, delivery, and then resell/upsell. And when I'll go in with companies and help them start preparing for scale, they're always, we have to like redo these things. I'm like, yeah, you do. And that's actually why you're capped by the systems, not the quality of the offer. Yeah.
So for any of those 4, that's what it is. Really looking at that.
9 times out of 10. Sometimes the offer needs a little bit of an upgrade to go wide, but I've seen people think it's the funnel in the offer, but they usually just don't have side story real quick.
Yeah.
One of my favorite coaches that kind of helped me get out of that 3-year cycle tailspin I was in. He coaches a lot of the A-list actors that we all could name.
Yeah.
I know who they are, just I'm not legally allowed to say it. They're big names. Watch any blockbuster movie. He's their coach. He flew out one day. He's actually sitting right here at one of my events. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. I have no idea how I got in the room. He walked up to me after I got off stage, and he goes, I know what you're struggling with. Which is a weird way to start a conversation with a stranger. So I was like, okay. Just kind of shut the door. I was like, sounds good. Over the next 6 months, he coached me, flew out one-on-one. And he goes, I was trained by Bruce Lee's top student. And I was like, okay. Flew out one day and he stood face to face with me. He's a big dude and tall, strong. And he goes, I'm going to fall forward and I need you shoulder to shoulder, completely squaring off. Fall forward. Don't move your body. Just try to keep me from toppling you over. I was like, what? Like, obvious he's going to. And he did. He fell forward. His momentum knocked me over. He goes, now I'm going to teach you how to handle any stress in your life. And he goes, do you know how, he goes, I was once learning how to punch with monks. And I was like, already an interesting way to start a story. Sounds good. And he goes, I was asking the monk how to punch. And the monk turns to me and goes, what is the shape of a punch? And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, then I cannot teach you to punch. So he's like, I had to go out and I had to learn the geometry of punching. It turns out it's a triangle. And you punch, right, there's a triangle right there. And there's a triangle right here. And the way you step your legs out is a triangle. And then legs out a little bit, it's a triangle. And you look under a bridge, it's triangles that hold up the geographic, it's argued to be the strongest shape is a triangle. That's why they're in all of our construction. And he goes, so now he's standing face to face and he goes, we're going to create a lot of triangles with your body. And he had me stand kind of like this, triangles, I don't know, like 20 triangles that he created with my body. And he goes, now I'm going to fall forward, even with some speed here. And don't push, just hold the shape. And it was the spookiest feeling on the planet, man. This dude is huge. And his, like, my fingertips were at his sternum. And I was just like breathing normal. There was no exertion. There was nothing. And he had his arms out and just smiling in my face. Yeah. And I was like, what the heck, man? He goes, this is why you're tired. You don't have any structure. There's no structure in the business. You are the structure. There's no structure in your personal life. You are the structure. Everything's different. And because it's all different, you're muscling. You want to see the proof? Move your left elbow out 3 inches. So I move my left elbow out. It's enough to break the structural integrity of the shape, and everything breaks, and I fell. And then he just looks at me and he's like, get it? He goes, stop avoiding structure. Structure is how you build structure. He's like, so, and they don't need to be big. I'm not talking routine. He's like, I know you're afraid of the word routine, but you need structure in your life that is consistent because business world changes enough. You have to have the consistency, the foundation of your life to build things on. That's true for business, true for personal, true for relationship. And it was what really got me to start sitting back and go, what is my personal structure? What is my business structure? Because if I don't show up in the day at that time, the business doesn't run. That means I don't have a business. I am the business. I am the structure. And it changed everything.
I've heard you tell that story before, and it didn't click till now. Could be because I'm at a place that
Sure.
You're speaking to where I am on a lot of stuff
So
right now.
business owners are structure builders. They think that they're offer creators. They're not. And that mentality ascension is what keeps coaches back.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
And I can see there's a part of me that likes freedom.
I know,
And
you
you're
push against it, right?
Yeah. And then
I did too.
when I say that, though, I think about people like, oh, I just want to speak from the heart. And I'm like, follow the template I created.
The structure.
And when you learn it and you memorize it, then you can be free. There's a triangle when you speak to an audience, and it's the triangle is your audience, you, and your material. And when you don't know your material, you're so focused on material that you leave the audience out. But when you really get your material,
That's good.
and you own it, so thank you. You own it so deep, you can be more connected to your audience.
Yeah.
And so when you're winging it, I'm just gonna speak. It doesn't work.
No.
Know it, get it, and then you can have more interplay and freedom. And you can go off script a little bit, but you know where you're going, and you can take it back. So,
Yeah, I love that.
thanks. All right. So question for you then. So rapid fire, some other questions.
Yeah.
Any other hardcore tips? Just like for the coach that's out there, it's like, I need sales, or I want to up level, I want to whatever. We've talked about some great stuff already, but anything else on speaking, sales, mindset, marketing, or business success? Anything else that just comes to your heart?
Yeah, I would say that all these funnels are really cool, but don't get distracted by the tech. You still are the first funnel personally. And that's a blessing, because if I go build a sales funnel, but I'm not actually selling in my business, I'm guessing on the copy, I'm guessing on the offer, I'm guessing on the hook and the angle. And so I would actually tell people to not go build a funnel for a little while and instead just get good at how do you get leads manually? Because when you start to go to the funnel world, it's just the automation of those things.
Love it. When you were talking about the 4 phases of business too, I was thinking it's that first phase when they really are going to have the first and second in their messaging and their offer. And then it's really taking it and just putting different structures to it, the kind of the heavy. And that's why learning to sell and market is so critical as a first stage in being an entrepreneur.
You solved the hardest one.
How does I think you've answered this already, and I'll ask it again though. How has your faith carried you through your hard times? How does it guide you, and how does it give you a strategic advantage?
Um, I had this blessing from a spiritual leader early in my life. I was like 14, and he's like, "You may not know it, but you have the gift of faith that knowing that God is real." And he's like,
Mm.
"Please recognize that as a gift." And it's true. There's no doubt in my mind that when I die, there's going to be a God, and my job is to not make that meeting with him when I die my first meeting with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this life is a dress rehearsal for that meeting post death. Um, and so I personally believe that the purpose of life is really three things. It's to know what it's like to have a body, have a family, and just grow. That's it. And growth is messy, which is what required a savior. And uh, the the relationship with God, dude, I failed out of every single one of my classes my first semester of school of college.
Really?
Yeah, did not know how to learn. I got Mercy, graduated from high school. All D's, like 60.01 in all English, science, math, all the STEM skills, all of them.
Would have never guessed that.
Yeah, all 4 years of high school. It was the same thing in elementary school. He's smart, just wishes he applied himself more. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I didn't get it. I didn't.
How did your dad let that slide? All these stories about
I
your
hid my
dad.
report card.
Huh?
I hid my report card. I got really good at new ways to hide it So uh, I did. And with 5 younger siblings, it was easy to have other distractions, you know. I wasn't dumb. I just didn't know how to study, and I did not take tests. I just didn't fit that, you know. So when I failed out of my first semester of college, like straight Fs, I did so bad. I had to wait 4 years before they would reset my GPA. So it was in that time I did all these other things,
Mm.
a lot of jobs, learned how to learn, um, went on a mission, like did all these things, and it was uh, there was a spiritual leader that really opened my mind. He goes, God's the smartest of all, right? Like, well, yeah. So he knows trigonometry. Interesting. He knows lead gen. Hmm. He actually knows how to do your algebra math. I was like, I don't know why I always think of like this misty floaty thing. You know what I mean? So this weird as this might sound, but this is I was talking to my daughters about this. I just started praying before I did my homework and asking for the Holy Ghost to be my tutor. You know, I was like, I need to understand how to do this math. I need to understand how to do this economics stuff or whatever it was, and I just made it a habit to ask for help, and I didn't realize I wasn't, and which is why it wasn't there. And the scriptures that say that I can't, there's certain things that God cannot give us until we ask for it, so that it teaches us to ask. And He wants to give, but can't until we ask. And I was like, huh. So I don't do this every day, but I often will pray before I start the workday, you know, and it's better business builder than I am. You know what I mean? And I think it's the admitting that you're flawed and human, and you're gonna die, and you don't know. None of us know what we're doing. I don't think anyone really knows what's going on. So, but if you can anchor to whatever the higher power is, and just at least understand and get a relationship with it, it's funny enough. It's not just for Sundays, you know.
No. All right, last two questions. First one a little bit heavier. Second one a lot more fun. How has Charlie Kirk's assassination changed you?
Yeah, I was devastated, just completely gutted. Like, he's one that I really looked up to. I'll write the names of key people I want to model, and his name, like, that was up there, because of the ability to respectfully disagree. That's a lost skill, or a rare one anyway. And I always saw that if people really misunderstand capitalism. So I always saw it. I was challenged by one of my business coaches a couple of years ago. He's like, you need to be doing what he's doing. You should go on the street and talk about capitalism with people, you know, and educate what it actually is. Because people think it's just greed. It's not at all. And so yeah, when he died, when he was killed, I've had to fight feelings of that being my future also, because I won't shut up, and I'm not gonna. Um, and I've had to like re-own it.
That's interesting you said that. So when I started doing my personal growth seminars, teaching my own back in 2004, 20 something years ago, I had that conversation with myself.
Mm.
Am I willing to get killed for this?
Yeah.
Because all the people who've created peace or great movements, not all, I'll reframe that, many, and the biggest names,
Yeah.
especially starting with Jesus, were killed. And so I had that conversation with myself. And there's a line in the Bible, I'm going to butcher it's basically like, he who is willing to lay down his life gets life, and he who tries to hold on to life never has life.
Loses it. Yeah.
And so now I have a son who's 15 months old, and I really don't want him to grow up without a dad. And I have a wife. But Betsy and I had that conversation, and we made that agreement. Are we okay with it if I get killed?
Isn't it interesting?
And I think if you're going to really step into being a world changer, ideally that never happens.
Sure.
And yeah, we made that agreement. But that also means I think we're going to start the way the world's going. They have security at church. I think we're going to start having security at our events.
Sure, be smart.
I won't say whether or not I every day carry a weapon. And I think there's that. There's also knowing how to be the weapon yourself. But yeah, it's interesting you said that, because that's a conversation we've had to have.
Yeah. I believe in this. I literally think that capitalism is the empowerment to, all this is problem solving for profit.
I was going to ask you, what's your definition of capitalism?
Yeah, capitalism is problem solving for profit. That's it. And one of the things I've been teaching our daughters, I love driving them to school because it indoctrinate them a little bit. And I was trying to tell them, I was like, if I was going to like drive this car like an idiot, what would happen? They'd be like, you're going to crash. I'd be like, yeah, it has power. Anything that has power, that's true. Capitalism has power. I can use it like an idiot and do a lot of negative things, and many think that that's what it is. I can use capitalism for good and serve my family, serve my community, and also find ways and seek ways to give back and not just wait to be invited to give back. Like, there's nothing wrong with capitalism itself. It's not a perfect system, but it's the best economic engine we've got. It's a power, and it's up to the individual, just like a gun. It's got power, right? It's still the individual choosing to shoot. It has no conscience of its own. So capitalism has power, and it's in its purest form. Capitalism is trade. So it's always funny when people are like, we should go back to the trade system. Like, that's still freaking capitalism.
It is trade.
It's like the only difference now is that we have this thing called money, which is we're so grateful, because if we have no money, and you need tires, but I need food, but I don't know how to fix tires, but you have food, we can't trade. So all money does is an intermediary for trade. That's all it is. And people, it's an accelerant. It lets the economy move. So now you can pay and you can go get the food from someone who has food. So it's like that's all it is the ability. Those people who learn to be creative have nothing to fear in the new AI world either. Creativity and personal confidence to take action, nothing to fear. Left brain activities will continue to be automated. Therefore, the future belongs to the right brain.
Oof.
Right? And it's like,
dude, are you saying that? You got to start saying that.
It's from a book I was required to read in school called This Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. But that's his whole argument, right? Anything that is left brain, we have a historical human pattern of automating or cheapening it.
Yes.
Right? Code.
Yeah.
Anyone can code now. That used to be really high-end skill. It's not anymore. But the future belongs to the creative. So, and what makes people uncomfortable at creativity is true art is an expression of self, so it's vulnerable. And that's what starts to shine the light on your insecurities.
I love it.
And that's where the parallel journey starts, where it's like, I'm going to go to the promised land, but on this internal parallel journey I'm on, I'm thinking, oh crap, right? And you get all this like mirror popping up, like, did you know you suck at talking to people? Did you know you don't have any personal structure? That's all it is. Business is just this mirror that just shows you what you suck at.
You don't get the mirror though until you commit to where you're going.
No.
It's not until then that it shows up.
And it's not at all disqualifying you from the journey. It's actually what makes you qualified for the next step.
I get so excited I spill my water. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Last question. Talk about powerful. You just married an amazing, powerful woman, and like the two of you talk about a power couple. So how has? And by the way, talk about guns. We got to go shoot guns again.
Let's do it.
That was super fun.
So
We went out
fun.
shooting guns.
Thanks for throwing my bachelor party, man. That was so fun.
It was my pleasure. It was fun. Dude, that TV that we shot up, I bought that TV back in 2004 when I launched my seminar company, started making money. It was my first nice TV.
Yeah.
I got this amazing and I played so much Halo on that TV.
That was my game back in the day too.
But it was like, that also was an addiction for me and part of the reason I had a crash.
Yeah.
Or, no, I don't know if it's part of the reason I had the crash. It's where I went because I was crashing.
I went through that.
But anyway, blasting that thing was very symbolic for me to the next step of freedom. So, Marley, how has getting married again, or for the first time ever, like, I don't know if it's the first time. I mean, I know you technically been married before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if you created intentionally a marriage then or whatever. How has this Steve been changed because of this marriage?
On our honeymoon, I literally said one of my intentions for this week of just being together is for us to discuss what the tenets of our marriage will be. What is our marriage structure and relationship structure? And we went and we created very simple. Here's what a week looks like. Here's what a 2 weeks look like. Here's what I fear not feeling free. I think it's just a male trait. So we needed to do it in a way where I didn't feel any kind of constraint, but there was enough consistency that would let us do the new things in business. You know, we constantly have the need of, Tony Robbins talks about it, right? It's like you need variety, but you also need security. So it's really, there's two forces are always fighting each other. If you get your needs met in the business, you actually have a failing structure. The business does not exist to meet the individual entrepreneur's needs. The needs must be met out externally. It shows up how you sell, shows up how you hire, shows up how you train every day. If you're not getting your actual needs met outside of the business. So like we need to set up the needs and create that. And it's been really fun, man, to like, to have, because we know this is where we're going to be building a relationship. This is where we're going to be building a relationship with the kids. This is where we're going to keep relationship building with God. And we just made the decision to keep God in the relationship. We're not perfect at it, but we're trying. And they were like, by having that foundation, it's allowed us to be more aggressive in business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's an honor to know both you guys.
Oh, you too, dude.
Talk about structure. Something Betsy and I did. We had a big screen TV in our family room, and I got this vision on a journey once to turn that into, we call it the theater for Alexa. And so contextually, that's a theater. It's where you go to watch TV, watch movies. And it was, to turn into a playroom, into a connection room with couches and soft stuff to sit on where people come together and you face in as opposed to facing a TV. And so yesterday we got home from a trip to Dallas and we last night pulled it and we put it on the porch. And one of our things is we want to be outside more. And so tonight we're going to go grill wings outside and watch some football outside in the breezeway. And so there's a structure. Now we've got the TV out of that other room. So that room's going to become a faced-in connection room for us.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
So how can people reach you or follow up or anything you want to give out for contact info?
Yeah. What we do is we help people with software scale them is really where we've been going. And I've never had more clarity in 11 years of doing this.
Wow, really?
Yeah, ever. It's been so fun. Endless energy. It's been cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the two places to follow, honestly, just stevelarsen.com. But if you're in software or want to grow subscriptions, we have it's a free program called launchyoursasoff.com.
That's an awesome name.
launchyoursasoff.com, but it's the scale math and SaaS math playbook that grows subscription products.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thanks for letting us film in your beautiful studio.
Yeah, of course, man.
Which we're going to be having an event here the end of next month. Dude,
you guys got to go. Here. It's going to be great.
It's so awesome to have you here. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining me today on To the Promised Land podcast. If you're ready to grow your impact, master your message, and become the kind of speaker people can't ignore, head on over to our website, to thepromisedlandpodcast.com. That's where the real transformation begins. The links are all in the description.